Welcome to the Homeschool for the Win podcast, the podcast for homeschool families looking for real conversations, practical insights, and a fresh perspective on homeschooling. Hosted by homeschool consultant and homeschool mom Jeanette McBee and Jose Lopez, a college and career readiness coach who works exclusively with homeschool families. In this podcast, we dive into the latest homeschooling trends, educational choices, and ways to help students discover their passions and future paths, all while building a supportive homeschool community. Whether you're just getting started or been homeschooling for years, join us on Homeschool for the Win and be a part of the conversation that informs, encourages, and inspires your homeschool adventure. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Homeschool for the Win, and we're so excited to be back. It's been a minute, but we're back and fully rejuvenated to start our Homeschool for the Win podcast. My name is Jose Lopez.
And I'm Jeanette McBee with Homeschool Help with Jeanette.
And we are here to talk about our exciting topic of preparing to homeschool in August. Jeanette, I don't know about you, but August seems so overwhelming. Like it is now that time where we are about to get into the thick of it. I know in the end of spring, it was like, I see this beautiful time where we get to rest and relax, and you're in that time, and now you see, oh no, like August is coming back. We know what August brings. Sometimes it brings chaos and just knowing that, I have to get everything together and prepared. And so it could be a little stressful time. But I think what we wanted to do is just talk about that and just how do we prepare for our upcoming school year, and so I think that that's going to be a really good topic for us just to talk about and just to prepare, so that hopefully you can leave after listening to this just maybe it's not going to be so bad if there's some things that I can put up to help me just have a better transition to the school year. And so, Jeanette, what are your thoughts?
Oh, well, absolutely. I think, something that you and I both really want to do is just continue to encourage homeschoolers out there. You know, you're not the only homeschool mom or only homeschool dad who is out there trying to figure out what they want to do for this coming school year. And I just want to lay something out there. You're not going to mess up that bad. It's not going to be that bad. You may need to redirect a little yourself a little bit. You may need to throw out one curriculum and start another, and that is okay. My mom was a public school teacher, and she told me, Jeanette, even if you put them in public school, it's not even until like the end of October that teachers really see where the classroom is going to go. So it just, you can take the pressure off. Everything's okay. Just the fact that you love and care for your kids is a huge step forward.
And that's the encouragement that we want to have is August is here. We have built the foundation. We have built the plan. But who knows at the end of the year if that plan is going to go according to what we're really planning or if it just looks a lot different than what we are anticipating. So we'll jump into that. But you know what time it is, Jeanette.
Yes.
It is that time where we do the Homeschool for the Win check-in, and that means that we just want you all to know a little bit about ourselves, and so we like to ask a question just so that you know what are we doing. And so today our Homeschool for the Win check-in question is what book or books are you currently reading? Right. I'll go first. I'll tell you the book I'm reading. So I'm reading Age of Opportunity. Jeanette gives it a thumbs up because I do. So the book, if you aren't aware, is just really how to really support teens. And for me, I don't have any teenagers. I have an 8 and 12-year-old getting really close. But when I ask parents who are going or have already gone through the teenage years with their kids, it's a book that's highly recommended. But the biggest advice that I get is You should really read this before your kids turn into teens, because if you pick up this book and your kid is 16 years old, then you may have missed a couple steps that you wish you would have done prior. And so I can't say that I'm really far into it. I'm on the second chapter, but from what I've heard, it sounds like it's a very interesting book that I just want to continue to hear and just to get advice and just to prepare for when my kids are teens. And so it is funny though because I work with some teens and I hear a lot of so far from the first chapter. I'm hearing a lot of same things of like what teens are going through, and so it makes a lot of sense where I'm like, okay, so my kids who are 12 and 8 aren't always going to be precious and always want to just listen and just be obedient whenever I tell them to do things. They may have some attitude, or I may be experiencing things, and the mindset that we look at that of, do we want to say, "Oh, teens, can we just get through this time frame with your kids," or do we want to look at this as an opportunity to just grow their character, show them that you care and that you love them, no matter what they're going through, whether it is during that growing time of like how we are here to support and here to love you. And so that's what I'm curious and want to learn about. So
Yeah, that sounds great. I totally agree with you. That was so helpful. We read it. We went through. There's also a study that we did for a while that was connected to that. It's so good. It's such a good book.
yeah,
I can get it
well,
right
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that maybe in another episode of like
now.
what are some key things that we read about. So,
Yeah.
but Jeanette, what are you reading?
So when you asked me, I'm like, I'm reading three books. So none of them very fast. But a couple of them that so one I just finished. It's The Giver by Lois Lowry. I think I'm saying that right. And it's on a lot of Christian book lists and things like that. It's kind of dystopian type um, fantasy a little bit with follows a young boy who's 12 um, and the social structure that is going on there and how he kind of wades through it. It's a story told very, very well. Very well. So I won't ruin the ending for you.
Yep. Yep. No spoils here. But we do recommend to take to read it for sure.
Yes, yes. And then the second one I'm reading is called Dopamine Nation. I believe the author's name is Lemke, Lembke. And she's a psychiatrist, psychologist. She has her own personal practice. And this book is about how we are attached basically to a dopamine machine, which is our phone. We're attached to that for the majority of our days, and what that can do to people as individuals and as a society and culture. I will give a caveat. I have not read the book in its entirety, so I can't really say whether I would recommend it or not. And it does have some graphic case studies in there, but they do get the point across about what dopamine does to the brain, and also how it works. So I find that kind of thing really fascinating and also pretty convicting. So I feel like it's doing its job.
Yeah. And I think when you read books like that too, and you start to capture like, okay, I can see the effects of what my phone is doing, and when people highlight it, it's like, oh, I get it. So, uh, my phone wasn't designed to always be a friendly technology thing that I could use. Sometimes people have made it for marketing and other purposes to make me addicted or to shine bright lights so that I can keep coming back. And so it's always I don't know if refreshing is the right word, but it's always nice to be open, or your eyes are opened up to what is really what was meant to be a good piece of technology, but now is the intentions are different, which kind of sounds like The Giver,
Yeah,
right? A
a
little
little.
bit, right? No spoils though. No spoilers. No spoils on that. But
Right.
um But highly, yeah, yeah. If anyone's out there listening right now and they want to share what books they're reading or any recommendations that what we should be taking a look at, and if you're like Jose, you haven't reached the teen years, but here's some books that you should take a look at. That's awesome. Or if there's any educational things out there that you're like, yeah, if you like learning about what technology does or any other effects that are out there, hey, we'd love to hear what you all are reading, and so let us know.
Absolutely.
Um, so for today, though, and our topic, we are preparing for homeschooling. We're preparing for the homeschool year, and we are in August, right? And so with that, Jeanette and I, we thought, what would be a good way to just really prepare? And that's really to look at the classroom. What are some of the practical things that we could be doing in order to prepare to enter into the school year? And then let's look beyond the classroom. What are some things that maybe are some things that we might do, or some things that we should be intentional in taking a look at as we look at those practical things? So, to start off, Jeanette, what is something practical that we should be doing in August?
Well, I think I'm going to take yours, and that is, what is your why? I think that that is something that's really helpful to start off your school year with. It gives you direction for the other things that you might choose, and it also kind of cuts out. We homeschoolers, we have a lot of options, and so it cuts down on so many options and really helps you have more of a focus about what you're going to do for your entire year. So it's really helpful to look at your why, to have a Bible verse. I know that you all have. What's your Bible verse for this year?
Yeah, for this year we decided to pick Philippians 4:13, which is the I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, going back to like, why we have chosen to homeschool, and just kind of reviewing that with the family, and then saying, as a family, we have chosen to really do where we can work on character, and we can have this education that is really centered around Christ. And if that's the case, then if we were reviewing that with our family, then we should have a theme this year that we can always go back to. And so I'm choosing that verse for our family because there's going to be tough times, not even with my kids. I may have a hard time dealing with a certain situation where I need strength. And so if we are telling our kids to do hard things, then we need to have a way to respond to that. Or if I'm going through a difficult situation, or if my wife is going through a difficult situation, what are we leaning on? And so not only are we looking at the classroom, but we also have to build this foundation of why do we homeschool, and where are we finding what are we focusing on this year? So I think that's the main thing that we should look at, is really what can we all stand firm on throughout the beginning of this year, and as we look forward into going into this academic year. And so and I don't know if that's going to be something that's going to be memorable for my kids, but I'm hoping that it is, where it's like, hey, all this year, I remember that year that we focused on this, and this happened in our life, and it was really great to lean on that. So I think that that's, as we look beyond the curriculum, that's the number one thing that I would recommend.
Absolutely. So the second thing that, if we're going to look at in the classroom, is, what kind of curriculum are you looking at? What way do you want to teach this year? Do you want to switch it up? Do you want to? I myself am an eclectic teacher. I pull from all different things. We do a little bit of unit study somewhere sometimes, and we do some textbooks sometimes, and a lot of times though, if you're going to the grocery store, the world is your classroom. So, but you do need to have a plan of some sort. That is really, really helpful. And I wouldn't say that everybody is built that way, but I would say the majority of people are. And especially if you're new, it's nice to have some sort of plan, especially to be able to measure the progress that your kids have made throughout throughout the year. That's really nice to be able to go back and see. And especially if they're older, if they're in the high school ages, you really want to see progress. Um, that's what colleges are looking for too. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I like what we said in the previous episode when we were looking at the beginning of the summer, like how do we prepare? And that is the best time to reflect. That's the best time to look at the outcomes of what the curriculum it is that you have. Now in August, it's like, okay, well, now we have to really solidify because it's going to start. And so, did that work? Or maybe even having a contingency plan of like, okay, we're going to start this new curriculum. And if it doesn't work, what is our contingency plan and what can we look at next? And we may not know that because maybe we'll go through it and say like, oh, okay, this is what we changed. But I would start to think about what curriculum as we're picking that we could potentially go to, or what some options if those don't work, so that
Mhm.
you don't feel like you're scrambling of like, oh, this curriculum's not working, okay, what do we do, what do we, let me go on to all these different sites that can give me idea, where it's like, okay, well, maybe this could work, or if like just doing it beforehand is going to help to prepare. So I love looking at that, like part of saying like, is the curriculum that we're using working great, or we're trying something new, and let's look at some plans just in case it doesn't work on what we could do. Um, and I think that that's a really good time to prepare for August on like getting ready for that next step.
Absolutely. And I would add in if you have a curriculum that has listed books, either have a plan for when you're going to go to the library and get those books, or go ahead and buy them. A lot of times I'm buying books from, what was it, Thrift Books and Abe Books. They're secondhand bookstores online. That's where I'm really getting the majority of my curriculum from. And so have those books available so you're not scrambling like the week of. Unless that's your personality, go for it. But again, it's hard. I've done it both ways. I've done it one way where I was like, oh, I'll get that the week of. Oh, no problem. You don't know what's going to happen that week. I promise you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. The refrigerator stopped working, or
Mm-hmm.
somebody got sick, and it's you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would
Y-
suggest just having those supplies, the science supplies, having those available.
Yeah, and I think that that goes into the other major point that we would say for getting ready for the summer, and that is to create a schedule
Yes.
of not only like when are we off, like when are we teaching each week by curriculum, but really, like you said, do I need to schedule time so I can go get supplies so that we can do a library run? Like that is so important. I'll give you an example unrelated to curriculum, but like I know that I once had, or in a current meeting that I was in, they were providing lunch. And so about 3 weeks ago, they said, hey, put in your lunch order as soon as you can. And I remember I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to do it right now. And that was 3 weeks ago. So when the meeting came up and this lunch just showed up, and I was like, I forgot I ordered this, but look, it's like, I didn't have to worry, which this week was pretty busy, and I was like, I didn't have to scramble and come up with that. Like it just showed up and it was there, and I was happy, and I was like, this is something that I wanted to eat too, and I was like, this is great. And so I can almost see that how being so far out and saying and scheduling, okay, these books can, I can either order the books this way or I can go to the library on this time, can just be so relieving that when the opportunity comes, it's like, wow, I didn't have to struggle to do that at such a quick pace. And so I think that that's a great point to have it scheduled. And as we look at that, that's the logistics part of creating the classroom. We also have to look at um, beyond the classroom on why we do the scheduling too, and it's just so that we can show that we're prepared, and that if there's any like pivots or changes, that we can have that built in where we're not so much stressed, and that we can show that resting and being like just focused on how we want to be intentional about some things and not having the stress of just the smaller things. it's going to be more beneficial to show that to our kids, and it's going to be so awesome for us to not have to worry about running to the dollar store and having to get different supplies and
Pipe cleaners.
yeah, and pipe cleaners and everything that you're like, oh, I wish I would have just ordered this on Amazon 5 weeks ago, but like we do it. And so just being intentional and creating that schedule and plan is not only going to help you uh, with the logistics, but it's going to also help you beyond the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I would add to that is when you're thinking about how your homeschool day is going to go, it's helpful to just walk through it in your mind. Okay, so we're doing science. We're going to do this experiment. It's going to go this way. What do I need to have to be ready for that? Or we've got a field trip on this day every month. How does that work with our homeschool schedule? It's just so helpful to just kind of take some time, walk through it, um, you know, and kind of like what you're saying, it helps you focus on what the whole point of doing this. It's to school your kids and love them, and be excited, have your mind open and flexible enough to be able to think on things on the fly instead of, oh, I forgot this thing, or I forgot that, or I meant to do this for you, and that then can sometimes translate to feeling a little guilty, I didn't have this ready and now I'm thinking about that instead of what you should be learning right now. So yeah, I would say just kind of walk through the homeschool day and that what that would look like, and then I would also, do stand back and think about, okay, what's our week going to look like, and what's our calendar going to look like. Every year, I would color code a calendar, and I'm not a huge Type A personality, but I'll tell you what, sometimes bringing those tools in really makes for a more efficient and more productive school time.
Yeah, because I think that leads to our next topic too. Because and I've me and my wife, just experienced this as well. Is that we have gone through that practice of looking at our upcoming schedule. What does the week look like when it comes to activities, right? And
Right.
so that's where we have done the schedule. We talked, and we have determined that we don't have room for a lot of the activities that we used to do because
Right.
my son is getting older, which means that these disciplines that he's doing, these topics that he's doing, are getting higher level, which means that that's going to take a little bit more time than the basic arithmetic that I knew when I was, addition. Easy. We could spend time to do that. But now, as we start to get into higher math, writing, those things are going to take more time. And so when those things start to take more time, we have to consider about the activities that we're doing. All the activities that we're doing, it feels like they're so beneficial. However, we really have to determine that as they're growing, do we have time, finances to do those activities? And so I think looking at that schedule and seeing and being honest, especially with your partner, to say, can we do these activities that we once could financially or time commitment? Like, what are the things that we're going to do? And so we have made some decisions to cut some activities, and we have to we also had to schedule a time to say, okay, well, when are we going to tell our kids that they're not going to be doing the same activities that they were doing last year? And we still have to build that in so that it is helpful and easy for them to prepare, to say, okay, when school starts, you may not be doing XYZ activity. And so but that also helps us to prepare for just technology use of, like, okay, we are going to be doing this certain program, and so how do we put on safety measures so that our kids aren't going to websites that they don't have to? And so if we start to prepare activities and look at the schedule, we can also see, um, we can also prepare ourselves to prepare with how to have those sometimes difficult conversations or preparing for technology.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. I also want to add in something. So when you're talking about activities, sometimes at the beginning of the school year, a lot of the summer activities have ended, and we haven't quite started those fall activities. So I want to encourage listeners to think about what it's going to look like in 2 months instead of just next week when you're considering activities. You know, how busy are you going to be in 2 months when you have all the different
Youth groups,
sports going
sports.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything is going, and how is that going to affect your family? Can your family, successfully navigate through that, or do you feel like God's calling you to a time of rest, or just be open and flexible to think about what that time of year will look like, and don't forget about Thanksgiving and Christmas because
Because
it will
it's
come
right
up
around the corner. That's what our audience needs to hear. That it's right around the corner.
you
It,
don't want to say
I know,
it.
but it's
I love
and
the
when
summer, but
when you go to Costco and all the other places, you'll
oh
see
my
Halloween
goodness,
decorations, and then
what the
next
heck?
month you'll see Christmas decorations.
Yes.
So it is right around the corner, but I think that also brings flexibility too, because as homeschoolers, I think that's what I love about it is that it doesn't mean that your homeschool has to happen between the hours of 8 a.m. and 3
Yeah.
p.m. So like when I look at the schedule too, it's like, well, what can we do over the weekend that could be beneficial? And so that's what my beyond the classroom topic or the thing to look at is what are some things that you can do outside of that Monday through Friday that would be kind of fun. So for me and my family, obviously I love career development, and so looking for opportunities to say, okay, over the weekend, what can we do to talk more about careers, or just even having like an entrepreneurial mindset of like, you're learning about um, different topics, business that like in the classroom, but how can we just make businesses? And as my 12-year-old gets older, now he can do things that, he couldn't do. Like he can start to mow the lawn, or he can, be more responsible. And with that comes this service attitude. And with that, how do you, is there a way to make an entrepreneurial mindset that like maybe one day you can have a business where, he's in band and uh, playing two instruments where it's like, well, how can you make that into a business? Can you do music grams and go to people's houses and play like so like just having a creative mindset and looking at our schedule to say like, okay, well, maybe there's something that we can do on the weekends that that you can't really do on during the weekday that we can help to support with more travel time as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, again, where I think that's where we have to really think about, this is now kind of the time to start moving towards the academic start where it's like, what else do we need to prepare? What else do we need to prepare for? Because I think summer's a great time to relax and get prepared, but what what are the things that we have to look forward to, right? So if you have a student like myself who is getting into these grade levels where they're going to be taking more time. So how do we schedule that out? If you have a high school senior who's about to go to college or enter into the career force, how do we prepare for that? Well, we should really start to schedule and look and see what that's going to be like. Have conversations with other people. So, but when do we do that? How do we do that? Am I too late to do it? I would say no, but we really have to start scheduling that in our time, and now is the time to prepare for that as well. And so August is just a funny time because it's a part where a I like August because it's been, if you have a co-op, you haven't seen some of the other families in a while. You'll get to see your kids meet up with other kids. I think that that's really fun and cool. But then it's also that weird part where it's like, oh, it's starting again, and I just wish we could have just one more month of summer, but we can't.
Yeah.
And so, um, you know, I would say that, you know, Jeanette and I are both homeschool parents, and if we are telling you that we experience the same feelings that you're experiencing, or maybe you are just actually thrilled to get this the start of the semester, and um, there's no worry, or you're not anxious about it, that's awesome. Please tell us more. Like, tell us
Praise
what
the
your
Lord for
secrets are.
that.
Yeah, but we wanted to let you know that the feelings that you feel about it starting up, it's normal, and we are feeling it too. So, I mean, is there any advice, Jeanette, that you would have just to say, just to help any family or anyone who's maybe just anxious about this upcoming school year?
I think what I would do is if I were actually truly anxious about it, I would write down what I'm anxious about. I would write down the things that I'm fearful of, and then I would just attack those things one at a time and just say, what's the worst that can happen? And one, is that actually going to happen? What's the probability of that? And usually it's not. What is it? We worry about 90% of things, and or what we were the things that we worry about, 99% of those things won't actually happen. So I would say to definitely pray over each of those things that you're worried about, and know that God loves your child even more than you do, and He has a plan for your kiddo, your kiddos, and that even if some trial comes along during your school year, or a curriculum doesn't work, I can tell you from firsthand experience that He uses those things, even though it's not exactly what you would have had happen. But He redeems those times, and He works them for His good. So I would just encourage you that even, despite all of our planning, that He continues to use those things that are hard, or harder for us, usually harder for us than they are for our kids. But
Hmm.
anyway, just to encourage you with that.
Yeah, and I would say use your community as well. Like, we're trying to build up the homeschool community as well. So, like,
Yes.
if you are feeling like that, like, I love your ideas of writing it down. Um, because the one practice I like to do is like, this is bad, this is worse, this is even worse, is like to play a little game to say, like, okay, go down the rabbit hole. Let's
Mm.
say something doesn't work, and then be creative and be funny with it. Like, okay, what's gonna happen if this math curriculum doesn't work? Well, my kid is going to fail math. Okay, well, what happens? And let's keep going down. What happens? Well, they're not going to become CEO of a big major company. And then, well, what happens? And then they're going to be on and then by the time you get to it, you're kind of like,
It's
okay, this is
ridiculous.
kind of ridiculous. Like, what is the goal, or that I'm really aiming for my kid? And so it's kind of fun to do that and just kind of like joke around of like, okay,
Yes.
my kid's not going to be CEO of Microsoft or whatever, and it's like, okay, well, that's okay, because
Right.
it doesn't, if that's not part of God's plan and His will for your kid's life, then that's okay. But I think that the next thing would be like just talking with your community as well, because all the feelings that you're feeling and all the pivots that you've made, there's someone out there that has done the same exact thing. And so don't ever feel like you're alone. Like, I started with one curriculum and it didn't work out for my kid, and now I have to change. Or one kid is thriving in this curriculum, and now I have to do something different for my other kid because they're not. And so it's like, those scenarios are super, I get it, it is super impactful, and it hurts, but trust me, there is someone out there who has gone through that same thing. So talk with your community. If you feel like, well, no one's going through what I went through, try try working with our community and start asking the questions to see if anyone has, and if they have them reach out. I mean, there's been plenty of times where we have been on different chat rooms or different like groups on Facebook that people have reached out to us and say, "This is my scenario," and said, "Well, we'd love to help," and we're able to help out with those. So I don't want you to feel like there is just you're that one person who is going through this one thing that no one can help out, because of the amount of resources that there are out there for homeschool families. We're bound to help you to find a solution out there,
Hmm.
but you have to let someone know what you're going through, because
That's right.
we're trying to read people's minds, but it's not working. Maybe we'll find a book about it,
I
right?
know,
And then we'll learn how to do it.
right?
Self-help book, right? So, but I think that again, if you are one of those people who loves August, please let us know. Or let us know if you're one of the people like ourselves who are stressed and ready and prepared to head into August. But we also know that we're a little anxious, but that's okay because we know who strengthens us through that. But we're ready to take on this new year. And so, with that, I'd say we're going to end this episode, but like we want to continue this conversation. So if you have any thoughts or anything on August and just preparing for the new year, we'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And we just like to encourage you that we're here to hear and listen to that and make sure that you are seen and heard for this upcoming year. So we wish you the best of luck in this upcoming year. And well, who knows, in the end of spring we'll come back and say, how did we do? And how did the verse go, and how was the activities? Did your kids miss those activities, or were they just so rejuvenated that they didn't do those activities? Like, I'm so interested to hear. And so we'll do a follow-up from this one to our end of the year one to see how and where we're at. So with that, we'll say thank you for listening, and we look forward to you joining us in our next episode.
Bye.
Bye.